Hi, my name is Nathan Waintrub. I am a PhD student at the Center for Transport Studies at University College London, and today I will show you my research about children on accompanied trips and how the interpretations given to the built environment affect children on accompanied trips. So, what I will expose will be a brief introduction of the relevance of the topic, then a literature review regarding built environment and children trips, the objectives and the gap I try to fill, the methodology, how I collect information, and how to address this issue, analysis and results of the data I collected, and the main conclusions. In Western societies, children present in the public realm depends on the trips they perform and the activities they do. In that sense, children will be in the area in a public space if they have to do a trip to go to another place for example, from the house to the school, or if they have activities in the public space, for example, go and play in the playground. Particularly, evidence showed that children travel less on their own than their counterparts of previous decades. That is, children nowadays walks and use public transport and trips from their own without being accompanied less than the counterparts of previous decades. For example, in the UK, children travel used to travel around 80% by their own, but nowadays it's just 30 or around 30% of trips that they do by their own without an accompanied. Even more children accompanied trips, those performed without an adult company, are diminished among others by the conditions of the environment. Hill, that studied this topic, showed that one of the main issues that affects children traveling by their own is the presence of cars, and that the huge amount of cars in our streets in the cities affects the presence of them because there will be unsafe to travel by their own, and parents then restrict them to go outside. Children present in the public realm usually represent a sign of the health of the communities. A urban environment good for children is considered a good place for any citizens. That is considered the most vulnerable person in the public spaces, with children and old people. If they are present in an area, that area then is a good space to hang around, is secure, is safe. It encourage children to be there. Their absence, then, the absence of children, put in evidence the wicked communities unable to protect their own members and to be sustainable over time. So, children is like an index of sustainability of an area. Then, cities development has a crucial role. Public realm can be an attractive space that endangers children and compromises their individual and collective development. So, in that sense, children in the public realm are delimited by the built and the social aspects of the environment. Both alter the behaviors and define the performative rules. Usually, studies go from the built environment, how they react, and more in the last years, social environments being included, like how the networks are related and which are the people they could encounter in the public spaces. The built environment is the one I want to explore furthermore. It comprises all the physical features of the urban landscapes that collectively define the public realm. Studies tend to understand the causalities of this issue from a quantitative perspective, measuring the possible causalities of certain features, for example, densities, mixed, mixed activities, land use, uh, and the relation with children and accompanied trips. Few of those studies deeply pursue an understanding of the relations of children trips and the environment itself, how densities affect really, how the stores or how the environment is constructed affects the presence of children in the streets by those unaccompanied trips they perform. So in a macro scale, children active mobility is usually related to densities, land use, and income as proxies of building typology, diversity of facilities, among others. Results from these studies tend to be inconsistent. One saying, for example, that density is good to encourage children accompanied trips, while others, for example, in the middle of the city with high densities, will mean that more unknown people will be around, and parents then will be scared to let their children go by themselves. At a medium scale, neighborhood features suggest that high connectivity and diversity have a positive effect. Nevertheless, those studies mainly conclude that distance is the most significant variable for children's active trips. So if the place they are going is too far away, they will prefer another kind of a type of transport mode to perform the trip. For example, a car if the place they are going is too far. At street scale, children have different perspective and behavior as compared to adults. They start so in the city from about from ground to 1 meter, less if they are around 12 years old. Literary point that active trips that frequently perform in vital and lively environments. Constructively, their private urban environments create aggressive environments for children's trips, usually constraining also the limits and the space that they have to perform their activities. So, considering these typologies of the built environment, this proposal aims to explore how the features of the built environment reflect collective rationalities of distrust and fear, and by doing so, affect the journeys performed by children. So, based in Santiago, this study inquires the wealthy and private areas of this city, the 6.5 million inhabitants capital of Chile. You can see in the graph a map of the of Santiago, Chile, and you can see how segregated is this city, showing in green the areas that had less quantity of the most poorest groups of people in Chile, and the red, the ones that have the higher amount of people, the poor people in the city. This is because highly income people live in wealthy areas, while lower income, the wealth developments were created by aggressive housing policies at the periphery of the city. The private developments are socially homogeneous, distant and disconnected from the city, and lacking from appropriate urban savings equipment as compared to the wealthy areas. These private settlements suffers of social segregation that impoverish and degrades its inhabitants. That is, the people that live in those areas gets poorer over time without a possibility to um, without a social mobility of their condition. Many areas of the new poverty, those people with roof, as in Chile we don't have in Santiago poverty of people without swells or access to water. There are people that have a home and have the minimum necessities resolved, are becoming ghettos with high indices of drug and crime and low scholarship attendance. So, considering this context in the city, I study two areas. One area that is in a wealthy part of the city, in San Carlos de Apoquindo. There is an area located in Las Condes municipality, the richest municipality in Chile. Founded in 1981, it is composed by houses built by private real estate developers. Over 10% of the population of Las Condes are children aged 6 to 16 years old. Specifically in the area I selected, I am studying, is well served by schools and universities, shopping malls, so it has good quality urban services. In the other side, the private area in this study is in La Pintana Centro, that is located in the La Pintana municipality, one of the poorest municipality in Chile. The wells were built between the 1960s and the 1980s by government developments, and over 17% of the population in La Pintana are children from ages 6 to 16 years old. This area is distant from the center, as you can see, and it's not that well served as the other area of these quality urban amenities. So the design method follows a constructivist approach. That is what we consider the realities of the people and try to understand what they mean. And at this stage of the study, it was used a qualitative method of an interview supported by three visual aids. So from the interview, I obtained data as transcriptions of the questions I asked to the interviewees, and then I used three visual methods. One was the children maps, where the children draw a map of the route they're using to go to a point to an activity, and they also draw the most important things they see in the environment, and then the parents have a map of a scaled map of the city, and they draw the routes the children take. And I also asked the children and the parents to help me complete a schedule of the children's daily activities. The transcriptions and the maps were used to understand the narratives, as Mason suggests, to construct on the features of the environment. For that purposes, develop codes related to the built environment, the social environment, and the permissions of the trip that children perform. And regarding also with the maps and the schedules, it was used to also obtain the context and conditions of a trip in order to develop indexes and statistics on children trips and the features of the environment. 40 families were interviewed. Around 62 children were also interviewed within those families. More than one children were interviewed in some families. All the children were ranging between 6 and 16 years old. And in the following, I will show the analysis and the results of the transcriptions regarding the codes of the built environment and the meanings behind these codes. So the first part of the course was divided in the aesthetic experiences, the sensual experience while moving through an area. And in this aesthetic experience, I found the natural elements were important, where the presence and type of trees in the street were relevant to understand how a place is and how it's organized. Children find really important to find trees, even if they in more the private areas you couldn't find that many trees, but they find it important as a point where they can understand where they are. And also parents in more in the wealthy areas and also with the children understood that places without that many trees were difficult to organize in their understanding. Also flowers and facades and gardens were important, especially for children, as they resemble the beauty of an area, even if they don't have that many or they're just points in the trips. They find these flowers and facades that were pretty and nice to see. Free and leash dogs in the public spaces were relevant for children, as they found it as an attractive amenity they could find in the area, and as they could pet these animals and they could entertain with it, while parents find hard to see these animals as they could be dangerous for children. Regarding physical features, streets and sidewalk width was important, as the closer the narrow the sidewalk is, the closer it is to the street and to the cars, and that could be a problem, an issue. Also, similar with streets were wide, the mainly parents find it will be an issue as cars are going faster in this area, especially in the crosses. Pavement irregularities as deterioration or sewers were find not good or not nice for children. They find that um, they make an area unsoft and wouldn't be as pretty as they would like to, an area they would like to go. Similarity and heterogeneity of houses and facades were also found as something they found as boring and not that pretty, so would like more diversity of these houses and facades to see more things and more different things in the area, as they could be more recognizable, being the houses different or the facades itself. Permeability of fences and facades, that is, if you can see through the fences and through the facades, was important as there was a mean of security, as when the facades of the fences were blocked, were blind, it will mean that the area wasn't secure, or you should be protected from the outside part of the street. Lack of artificial light during night hours were also important, as a thing you could have in the streets, but mainly parents wouldn't allow children to go at night, so it wasn't the most relevant things. It was more relevant for parents to be a thing to be present for them to go outside, or children that are older enough to go by themselves. Moving elements as motorized vehicles were found were value as which kind of vehicles they are. Vehicles have a meaning by themselves if they are expensive cars or they are work cars, as a van, for example, and will mean if they will like the area regarding those vehicles they could see. In the same sense, in the invasion of vehicles was also important, as it's not directly illegal. It will be something the parents and the kids would like to have in there, especially in the private areas that invasion is more common in the sidewalks. Regarding the maintenance and hence the health of the community that is worried about their areas, the cleanliness and flawless of rubbish and debris in the street will mean if the community will care of the area they are on. So if the families see debris and rubbish, will also mean that the people in those areas wouldn't care of the public space they are or the area they live. Neglected play areas on the same side will also mean that this area was not used mainly for kids, and other people could use it as, for example, drug addicts or alcoholics. But mainly wealthy areas, they will discriminate those neglected players if they are not well said. Broken or uneven streets and sidewalks, similar as I told before, also mean an area that is not cared completely, and it wouldn't be great to go around. A regular extension of the private property on the other side will mean an illegal use of the street that is not from others, and it will mean a community that is broken and is not adjusted on the spaces they are for all. So it will be a place that you should be aware of and you should be scared of. The same as neglected facades, wall fences, or roof, that if you don't live in the area will mean something you should be scared of, but if you live in an area, it could be something of the common normality. The same as periodic facilities and residues that are not taken with care will mean that mainly the local government won't take care of the area they are living. Natural elements as poorly maintained trees and plants will also mean that a community that is not care, or a local government that doesn't care of the area around and does some muds in the streets was more obvious in the private environments, but it wouldn't be a problem or conflict in both the private and wealthy areas. So it's something that you can encounter, and you have to know how to go through these areas. Regarding the facilities, as understand as at the level of control of a place, public realm, where different kind of people could gather around. Size and location from green areas, parks and hills, where if they are close enough, they will see as a common place where they could hang around, but usually could be also the place where drug addicts and alcoholics could meet. So it's something where you should be scared in the private areas, but in wealthy areas, it's more of where drug addicts could also meet, but not dangerous ones. Type of streets as alley was understood as something you should be scared if they don't have any control from around. There wasn't any doors or windows that will see to this alley and will be places mainly avoided. Public green infrastructures as recreational equipment, benches and trees, especially in wealthy areas, were used by all, but families mainly and nannies that care of children and wouldn't be scared of, and in the private settlements wouldn't be that much of this equipment found in the areas. Transfer into more facilities on the other side in wealthy areas was seen as a place where different people could meet and it should be scared of, but in the private areas will be a part where you should be also aware, but of people you may know, and you should know how these people is. Vision facilities were liked, especially in wealthy areas, where kids find as a good thing to have in their neighborhoods, and private facilities are free markets in the private settlements, were places where the limits were released and children could roam around. Private facilities, big facilities, a mall, shopping mall, universities, and health centers were known but and pretty recognizable by children in the wealthy areas, while small and in-neighborhood businesses were more known and more perceived by children in the private areas. The meditation infrastructure for the other side was a common good in wealthy areas, and important to define which are the best places for children to roam around and which should be aware of other issues. So as conclusion, preliminary results expose that the features of the built environment have meaning and an indirect effect on the presence of children in the neighborhood. Some aesthetic features of the built environment are desirable in both types of settlements, for example trees, as they can influence children's trip routes, while level of maintenance of urban environment features is related to the health of the communities, encouraged trip performance by children if the community is positively perceived and have they maintain adequately maintenance to be a good place for children to be outside. The level of control of facilities due to the perception of insecurity is positively evaluated if they are highly controlled places. Then sustainable urban environments with wealthy communities for children need physical features holding positive meanings, as the one I showed before. And nevertheless, the social environment of the community and the effects that they have on children present in the urban environment should be as well understood. Thank you.